Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. This is take two because Sadhu forgot to turn the camera on the first time around. So this is just me alone today. Anand is busy. Shashwat is back in college, back to his studies, and you know, gives me an opportunity to talk to guys one on one without nobody else. So I want to take this opportunity today to talk about this idea of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you have two conflicting ideas in your mind, you are not able to make sense of it. It leads to confusion. And right now, we can see that very clearly in the stock market because we've been told that there's a certain way the market behaves, there's certain principles, which economic principles it's based on, and these are like fundamental laws of nature. It's pretty straightforward, and it really can't argue against that. It's like Anand's brown ring nitrate test and all that. So we have that belief which we have been brought up on. But the market, if you see its behavior, is in complete asymmetry to this, meaning it's a complete opposite to this. And it's behaving as if all what we believe in doesn't really hold water, or it's not true. It's like suddenly gravity, we wake up one day and gravity doesn't work anymore. Imagine that world we'd be living in. The reason I'm saying that is the Indian situation, what we're going through, it's not created by the tariffs. Of course, the tariffs are compounding it and making it harder for us, but we have been going through this kind of a bit of a crunch for quite some time. It may not be reflected in our media, it might not be reflected, but all of us have been feeling it. That's one of the main reasons we talk about it. Petrol prices, inflation, gold price. There's a strong belief that this is all created thanks to this, what Trump has done to us. And that's where I would like to push back and say, because they feel by cutting interest rates and improving liquidity in our market, there will be a sudden economic revival and turnaround. I don't know. I don't see that it being there. And they're saying all this will counter what is happening with Trump and tariffs because our domestic consumption will go through the roof, and that consumption would lead to our economy growing at breakneck speed again. And this is not some kind of biased media. This belief is being held by quite a few well-reputed journalists from around the world who feel that this may be a case in point where India can negate this. But the problem is we have been having issues with our economy for some time, and it's very apparent. None of our numbers on sales or anything is doing great. Even Hyundai came out recently with their sales number. Cars are not selling, bikes are not selling as much, and that's a lot of pain. And flip of it, what's happening in the US, where for some reason, I just can't believe it is purely on the fact that our Prime Minister did not support him on his Nobel Peace Prize quest to get a Nobel Prize, Peace Prize that is, and we did not give him due credit for the conflict we had with Pakistan. I can't believe it's just purely based on that reason he is really chasing India and punishing us, because that is also completely lopsided. Because the grounds why he is punishing us seems to be everybody else seems to be doing the same thing, but there is no punishment being dealt out to them, and we are being singled out as that is the cause, which is basically saying Russian crude. The Chinese consume more than us. Whatever crude we are refining from Russia, the Europeans are buying it from us, and that's where the other cognitive dissonance is. We can't understand. If this is true, then it should be true. But you're saying this and you don't do that, leaves a lot for wondering. So this is what is creating this amount of uncertainty in the market, and this uncertainty in the market is what is creating these price movements you do see. Markets hate uncertainty, and they thrive on having clear-cut policies. Forget if the policies work or not, or if they, are the right policies or not. Mr. Market always likes it when whatever it is that we agree on, this is the policy. This is the way forward. And right now, that is not there. Even the Americans who are reeling under what Trump is doing in tariffs, business owners, are all asking the president, okay, you want to do this tariffs, fair enough, but just tell us clearly what is the tariff, how much is the tariff, when does the tariff start, and then we'll find out how to go about living in this new reality. There's no certainty there. But then again, if you look at the stock market, it seems to be thinking everything is going great. Even recently, the American government statistic bureau said that, if these tariffs continue for the next 10 years, they will rake in almost $4 trillion. All that $4 trillion Trump was claiming is, going to be paid by the rest of the world to the United States. There also is huge cognitive dissonance because it just doesn't make sense. Because if you see the price index of goods landing in the United States at port, there's been no movement. So all the tariffs right now, it's being absorbed by the businesses. At some point of time, the businesses will not be able to absorb these tariffs. That will lead to inflation. That inflation is the tax which is going to be put indirectly on the American population to pay this $4 trillion if these tariffs continue for 10 years, which itself is a big question because Trump is not going to be there, the president, for the next 10 years. So who comes next and what they decide to do, how far these will last, even under Trump's own presidency, it's hard to predict because he's so unpredictable. But if you see, this tariff cost is going to create inflation, which consumers will have to bear, and that cost of inflation, which is being bared and paid as tariffs, is on the Americans. So that doesn't make sense, what he's saying. It's very clear. It's just logic, pure logic. So what he's done is he's removed the taxes from the rich, the income taxes, he's dropped those. And these indirect, it's called, tariff or sales tax or whatever you want to call it, some kind of taxation it is, where they're charging you, an extra cost because they think you deserve it. That is going to create this inflation in the US. So all this is there on the cards. Of course, we're all being focused purely on the AI boom. People are not focused on AI boom, are focused on other news cycles. But these fundamental truths of economy are very real. You cannot shake them off. Job losses are happening. Joblessness is going up. Inflation is going up. Job security is vanishing. Things which were predictable in life are disappearing. Meaning there is more and more uncertainty being added day by day. But somewhere we seem to be in some kind of hibernation, living in some false reality, thinking none of this matters, which is remarkable. I think that is something people who are not plugged into any specific silo, who are just standing and watching all of it in entirety, find it hard to digest and fathom, saying that, can't you guys see the amount of chaos that is there? Of course, there's a counter argument. The counter argument is that the world has always had this kind of chaos at any given point of time. At no point of time in human history did we have absolute peace. Maybe before human beings arrived on this planet, there was absolute peace. But since we have been walking on this planet, there's always been some kind of, what's happening right now. Even in the 1970s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the Bosnian wars, Europe, what was happening in Europe during the Yugoslavian fall. The country broke up. It was a bitter civil war. Christians against Muslims. All that chaos was there. And we were saying similar things back then. And we seem to have come through that. Maybe we are a bit of an alarmist. Maybe we are living, in some kind of, with, horse shades, and maybe we're wrong. But if we are wrong, I would like to know how we are wrong. What is anything I said faulty in the logic in what I laid? Because since I have you guys with me today, I wanted to have this conversation and put these points out to you and say, what do you think? Do you think we are okay? It makes absolute sense where the stock market is, where the so-called section of society say things are, don't worry about it, it's all okay? Or is it more like what I'm saying? Are we an alarmist? And are we ringing the bell when there's nothing to worry about? Of course, this also holds true, which is where the dissonance comes again. If you're looking as a value investor, as long as you find value and you buy the right stocks at the right prices, good companies, this doesn't matter, which is also another bizarre thing. So this is true and this is true. Both are really not together, but at the same time they exist together. So that is an interesting piece of information which I thought I'll throw it out there and ask you guys a question or two about it, and maybe those of you who did decide to join me as I'm alone today with Sadhu and answer these questions which I threw out there. And I'd love to see your comments. And I'm sure Anand will be with me tomorrow. And I will definitely pick up the comments and the questions and the feedback you guys had on this video and ask him specifically about this dissonance which I'm talking about. Anyway, I know today's video was not about something about stock or Trump or something about the Indian market, which I'm sure you're usually looking for. Today was something completely off the blue, or off the beaten track, as they say, and out of the blue. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it informative and entertaining. I'm sure you have strong views about what I just said, and I would love to hear your views on this. So if you could put it down in the comments and let me know what your views are about the state of the world we are in, and what are your views specifically regarding investing in stocks in this kind of a state of the world. I would love to hear your views on this. I would like to see where we all are on this. Are we all on the same page? Are we on different pages? What is this book which we all are part of about? Anyway, thanks for being with me on Viraj. Wish you a great evening from here in Chennai. See you tomorrow with Anand. Thank you.